to one more update. And Kamisha Hollis's sister, Caprice, contacted me to tell me that, once again, this is something that happened since the update episode, that Kamisha's, the father of her children, Marvin Young, is going to be going on trial in Nebraska in November 2021. So we still got 6 months to that. Why it's going to take that long, I don't know. But she contacted me to tell me that. So that's a trial we'll be looking for late this year. Before that, like I said, we're going to have Austin Pivo, Janelle Matthews / Steve Pankey, the grand jury seemingly for Tom Brown, maybe Jonathan Estes' wife, Tyler North's ex-wife and her boyfriend. We're going to have a lot of things that are going to happen before we get to Marvin Young's trial for the murder of Kamisha. But we're going to have a lot to talk about later this year. But once again, there's hope. Thank you for your contribution through the super chat. You're very generous. And thank you for the compliment regarding how I handle these topics. One more thing, and then I will go to this Friday's episode. Did you see this story about this woman who they thought was missing, and it turned out that she just decided she was going to live off the grid? The story comes out of Salt Lake City. They do not use the woman's name, but family and friends were worried that she was deceased or had gotten lost and everything, and they sent drones out and everything, and they found that she was living in a tent in the Diamond Fork Canyon. She'd been missing for months, but they tracked her down. They went out there and they went to make sure she was okay. They actually took her to a hospital to make sure that mentally and physically she was okay. She checked out. She wasn't breaking the law. She was in an area where you're allowed to camp. And so they let her go back out there, and she's living off the land. It says here the crews had gone up into the mountains there looking several times for this woman. And the missing persons report was found, but it turns out she's just living on her own. She's just getting away from everybody. And one more reason that disappearances are so difficult. And I even have I have written as a note, and you once again you can look at this. Maybe if you just Google, just put Utah woman really wasn't missing, you'll find articles written about it. I'm not going to read the entire article, being that we're getting close on the time here to 2 hours. I just put in my notes here, Sky Tosic, of course, a disappearance we just covered recently. Could it be this is what he was trying to do, but failed? Did he want to go up into the mountains of California and do what this woman is doing, and failed to do that? I think that's a possibility. I think a majority of you in the poll think that he did walk off, but maybe might have not been suicidal or anything. But there are people who try to do this and fail and die and are never seen again. I don't know how many of those people there are, but it seems like this woman is pulling this off, just living off the land. Charlotte says, I saw that story today. Eileen, kudos to her. I'd last 10 hours in the wild. Eileen, me too. I'm a total wimp. I got to have my electricity. Marlene says, I loved In Search Of. Eileen says, yes, the woman's story did remind me a lot of Sky. Cherie says, I posted it in a discussion group. I thought it was relevant with all the national park disappearances. There you go, Cherie. Don't get me started. You're trying to trigger me, Cherie? Charlotte says, I loved In Search Of 2. Blaze, she was eating moss for 4 to 5 months all winter in the snow and everything. I can't imagine that, Blaze. Me not eating sugar and carbs is enough. I think it's Shree says it also proves that really people do check out. Yeah, they do. And there's no law against it. All right. So if you haven't heard that story, just go to Google, do a search for Utah and woman not really missing. That should get it done. This Friday, let's talk about, we're going back to the regular format on Friday, covering the first disappearance we have in 3 weeks. The Disappearance of Sandy Canipe, Canipe. This is a disappearance that is on the Charlie Project. It's on NamUs. Sandy disappeared January 16th, 2016. It was a Saturday from Shelby, North Carolina. So we're going to North Carolina. We've been there many times. And the guest is his son, Chris Canipe. And what is interesting about that is Chris is a sheriff's deputy in the same exact county where his father went missing, and it is the sheriff's department that is responsible for investigating his father's disappearance. Chris is not involved in that for obvious reasons, and in fact, Chris told me that he has although he is in law enforcement, he does not get into murders. He's not in the murder, disappearance, violent crime section. His responsibilities are elsewhere. But so his colleagues are the one who, of course, took the report and now are responsible for the investigation of his father's disappearance that happened over 5 years ago. So I think that's a first on Unfound for that kind of guest. The title of this episode is called A Bad Mix. And the reason this is because in the months before Sandy went missing, he had unfortunately gotten into the habit of loaning friends money. And that is the theme to start the episode, that, we love our friends, we love money. But oftentimes when we combine the two, whether we go into business with a friend, or we loan a friend money, or something, we loan them money, or whatever you want to say, money can often sour relationships very quickly. Now, it'll be up to you to determine if this was the cause of Sandy's disappearance. I think we got a couple different possibilities here. But that is why this episode is being called A Bad Mix. When you start mixing friendships and money and business, and things don't go quite as you expect. But once again, maybe that had nothing to do with his disappearance. But it makes up a large part of the conversation that I have with Chris, Sandy's son. So once again, this Friday, Sandy Canipe, Canipe, Sandy, a guy. He disappeared from Shelby, North Carolina on January 16th, 2016. He's 48 years old. His son, Chris, will be the guest, and the title is A Bad Mix. And I think that's about it. Marlene says, I did hear about the lady living in a tent. Yeah, I don't know if it made national news or not, but it caught my eye. So what did we do tonight? Talked about being beautiful here. Told my shirtless on the phone story. Talked about the women's disc golf event that I will be helping at this weekend. Unfound as a sponsor. Talked about the new keyboard. Talked about the new guitar. Talked about my diet. I've lost about 9 pounds, feeling spectacular. Talked about how I think not eating sugar and carbs has kind of freed my brain up some way. Maybe I'm just crazy. And the personal part of the program went for 45 minutes before we started talking about the update episode, the blog, the books, Suzanne Morphew, the newsletter, Kayleen Oling, Troy Galloway update, Kamisha Hollis update, this woman who went missing in Utah but isn't missing, and took some great questions from Jamie, Marlene, and Valerie, and finished it up as we usually do with this Friday's episode. Next Friday's episode, the interview has already been done. The interview for the May 21st episode is going to be done tomorrow, so I'm working a little bit ahead. So we're busy here, as usual. So that's all I got. Remember to give the thumbs up to this video before you leave tonight, or if you're watching this in the rerun, please give it the thumbs up. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and PayPal.me/Unfound Podcast. You will hear me Friday, and those of you in the think tank will see me Sunday, where we'll get to talk about Sandy Canipe's disappearance. Thank you, everyone. Cannot thank you enough. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving myself, my assistants, and Unfound a little piece of your Wednesday evening. Good night.